we managed to finish another year at the Orilium Academy. I am now a adept. I want to say that's right. This was only due though to the Guild Emporium scrolls that she made available this year. I'm working, if this happens to be your first time at my channel, that might have been a bit confusing. This is my September reading wrap up, where most of the books though were books that I had to read for the Orilium readathon that took place in September. This helicopter. You know, I called it a helicopter, but now I kind of feel like it was a plane. I could have stood up and tried to look at it, but that was, you know, that's not the point. I don't remember what we were talking about before. The books I read were for the Orilium readathon. We are being joined by a kitten. Hi, buddy. Can you not do that? Okay, kittens have been put up, and Sunshine is kind of still with us. She might go sit by the door where they are, but she's good, so she doesn't have to be put up. And she might just go nap somewhere. The books that we read, though, there were 3 4 stars or more, 1 3-star, 2 2.5 stars, and 1 that was unrated that also wasn't for Orilium. Did I do the right total of books? I don't remember anymore. The first class we started though was lore, which I needed to read a vampire book and a book that had been translated. So the vampire book was supposed to come first for ordinary and then translation for qualified, but I read them in reverse mostly because I started The Promised Neverland by Kayu Shiari? Nope, let's just not. In this one, we are following a group of orphans who are all under the age of 12 at this pretty much idyllic home, and you are following the oldest 3 mostly. And it's a manga. I forgot to mention that. This is just volume 1, and it's got the first like 8 chapters of the manga in this volume. And you're following the oldest 3 who are all 11. They are incredibly smart. They always make top marks on their tests that they have to do every day for their education. And they get the best food, and they have all this time and space to run around and play outside. So even though they're orphans, it's just, they feel very loved by the woman who does take care of them, and wonderful family life. So many things are uncovered. This is kind of a very dark series about children. And it just takes turns, and I don't know how much to like say, because what might be known based off the anime or even the manga covers. Definitely not the first cover though. Moving on though to our second one, the vampire book would be Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. I thought this was going to be more thriller, horror, vampire story. But in the author's later description, she does describe it more as a romantic horror. And the romance did play a part. Not as much as I was afraid it would though. It wasn't too overbearing in that regard, but it does play a part. This is kind of a Dracula retelling though, where you are following Lucy Westenra. She was one of Dracula's first victims in the original Bram Stoker tale. However, in this one you see that she does not remain dead. She awakens as one of Dracula's brides, and it is told from her perspective. It is told from present day perspective of Iris Goldman, something like that. And so you go back and forth from both perspectives and across time periods. I really like the way it was told and how you get to know Lucy through her own journal entries from back before she met Dracula, and also in a more present day sense of her speaking to a therapist in a very interesting situation of how that all came about too. And it is through the transcripts from the therapist as she was telling her story. And so you get 3 different sides of Lucy kind of, and I like that a lot, which kind of helped because Iris also finds this and is able to read Lucy's journal. So that helps it not feel quite as insta-lovey as it could have without that, because it does happen quite quickly. I say that while also needing to say that the pacing of it was kind of slow. And the modern day pacing was actually the part that felt more tedious, repetitiveness, which is odd. I can hear the kittens doing something. Oh my goodness. Next book though would be Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson. This is the audiobook that I listened to while starting Lucy Undying. I actually might have finished it before I finished Lucy Undying. I don't know. This, though, falls between book 2, Words of Radiance, and book 3, Oathbringer, and we are following Lift, who is an edge dancer. As it starts in the same way that the interlude started in Words of Radiance, where you're first introduced to her and Gox, and explaining how all of that went down between her and Niall and almost being captured. And in this one, she has run off on her own in search of famous pancakes and also other reasons. And it really will explain her kind of accepting something. Lift is just such an interesting character. One, her abilities work different from all the others, and also why she went to the Night Watcher in the first place. Like what it explains there, and her coming to grips with things, and the orphans that she meets there, and just how compassionate she is, and she's so young and innocent but yet streetwise, and how she sees these people at the orphanage and these kids, and she understands kind of what makes them different, and looks at, you know, why different kids have been abandoned in this time of turmoil. And even when she's causing chaos, she's kind of also doing stuff to help people. I went ahead and did the Elemental Studies book, which was supposed to be to read one with your favorite scent in the title or cover, and if you saw my TBR, I couldn't figure out what that was, so I picked cookies and read The Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanne Fluke, and my God, do I wish I didn't. No, I think this was a 3. I think this still came out to be a 3 because this was the start. This was the start of the bad. This book is the first of the Hannah Swenson cozy murder mystery series that obviously some people love because Hallmark has picked it up and made movies about it, and there are almost 40 books. Hannah Swenson, though, is a baker. She owns the Cookie Jar, where they do seem to sell exclusively cookies. Maybe that is why it doesn't open till like 8 or 9 a.m., even though there's also a coffee shop. Why isn't that open earlier? I don't know. How is it that everybody in this town doesn't get up and get to work until then? Who eats cookies for breakfast? Which apparently a bunch of our customers do. There's just so many unbelievable aspects to this at the beginning, and I was just like, no. I didn't like the way she was like talking about her sister. Like, we're not going to get into all those things. Or thinking about her brother-in-law, who is the detective, or who is the sheriff's deputy, who ropes Hannah kind of into helping solve this murder for the milk delivery man that Hannah found dead behind her shop one morning. And Hannah's investigation method is just, okay, I have a few people in mind, I'm just going to go question them. They have an alibi, okay, on to the next one. They have an alibi, on to the next one. Until we have talked to everybody pretty much in town. And then the last person just, yeah. I didn't like the flow of it. I didn't like the setup. I didn't like certain things and how she's thinking about her brother-in-law. Like, oh, he couldn't solve this case without me. Oh my God, are you serious? On to Inscription, which is the one that I needed the most books for. And I actually did read them in order. The first one was supposed to be to read a book with the letters of your first name. And I went with Morningstar by Pierce Brown, which I had debated going with a different book, but I'm so glad I picked this one up because it made it so much better. It made all the things I read so much better. Unfortunately, they just continued. Never mind. This is the end of the original part of the Red Rising trilogy that started with Darrow, who is a Red of Mars, who are the class of people who drill into Mars to get the helium-3 to power space flight and terraforming the planet to make it livable for humans. Society is divided into colors, with which each color has a specific function, job that this is all you can do. This is all you can do. The golds are the ruling class, and then under them the silvers, and the gray is, I think, the military, and the obsidians are the crazy military, and the reds are the lowest. They are the laborers. Well, Darrow finds out his whole life is kind of a lie. He joins up with a rebel group that are the Sons of Ares, and they're intent on taking down the golds. And in the first book, he is doing this from within the Gold Elite School in competition, and that was really awesome. I loved Red Rising. Gold Sun was pretty good. It upped the stakes, it upped the ante, but it had this big cliffhanger thing at the end. On to Morningstar, where we are picking up you're unsure how soon after that cliffhanger it is, and for the reason of where Darrow is, he has no sense of time either. And into it gets going, and you see what has happened to the rebellion after the events at the end of Golden Sun, and it felt so believable. Like, this is what you would expect to happen to a rebellion after something like that happens. And also our hero Darrow not being this shining golden boy anymore, not being the same person, which, yes, he's not a boy, he's now well into his and I say well, there's actually a line about that. I think he's 23. Like, Darrow and Severo were talking about goodness, we feel old to see like the mistakes of the past, and Severo's like, I don't remember what he called him. I don't think it was Git. We're only 23. But he's just different. He's not this shining example anymore. He's not so confident even anymore, which does lead to a bit of the problem into it, where you would think he would have more caution and have thought this through when some mistakes happen instead of just how it played out. Either way, though, the ending of the book, this could be the end of like the whole series. I do know he kept going, but it wrapped up. It wrapped up swimmingly. Are there open endings? Sure, because the universe is going to keep going. But the story itself and how it is a very good, satisfying conclusion. This was the 4.5 stars, I think, for the month. And yes, I loved it so much. Unfortunately, we kept going. The next book was a color wheel pick, where whatever color it landed on, you needed to read a book with that color, like the title was that color. And I'd gotten a light blue, and I wanted to go with stuff I owned. So I picked up Bewitching a Highlander by Roma Corden. I'd gotten this in an unplugged book box, and it's so pretty. Like, it gives the fall themes. It takes place in 18th century Scotland. It is historical romance, I suppose. Our main character, though, was the whole... Oh my gosh. This continued to where I'm really starting to think I'm falling into a slump, even though Morning Star was amazing. We're back to, everything else sucks. I try not to be too nitpicky because this is historical, but our main character just was not smart. We are following Brina McRae, who is a healer and a witch, and she has to hide this, of course, because we are in our world where witch burning happens and is illegal and stuff like that. And yet, Chick wants to keep doing her spells, which they aren't spells hardly. She's like lights candles and incense and pulls stones, divining stones, out of a bag. But that's enough in this time period, obviously, to get you condemned as a witch. But she's most recently found out that her father, who she thought died 19 years ago, might still be alive. Biggest stretch ever how that turned out around, but yes. And when I say just recently found out, 2 weeks before this novel takes place, she found out. She tells you 2 weeks of, and that was all the planning she did to go infiltrate this keep where these people have him. And good gracious, if our other main character, Egan Dunbar, hadn't been there, she would have been caught. Who knows what would have happened, but the whole story was just, yeah. I liked Egan's perspective. Yes, there was instant chemistry. I won't say instant love, but there was instant chemistry between them. The banter, how they got along, that was wonderful. But it's a romance, so the story overall, yeah. And then the thing at the end, of course that's what happened. Of course it was. For Distinguished in Inscription, I'd already used the scroll to just replace the book because I could not figure out a 5-star, or not, that was not it. Yeah, no, 5 stars with the author had blurbed or shouted out a different author or something like that. I couldn't find one of those. So I replaced it with Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, and since it's so big, I was like, well, I need to go ahead and do Restoration because that's only one book. It's smaller, we can knock it out as a thriller, it'll be fine. Okay, I'm going to completely cut myself off, and I don't know where I'm going to cut it off because I think I went ranty right from when I started talking about this book. Let's try to do that not this time. I decided for Restoration to read Midnight is the Darkest Hour because you were supposed to read one with a night sky on the cover, and it's got moon, maybe stars, but it's a moon, and so it should have stars. This one I thought was a thriller. I don't know why, or maybe a mystery. And I mean, As the killer haunts a small southern town, and two outcasts, the preacher's daughter and the boy from the wrong side of the tracks, hold the key to uncovering the truth. They've been friends since they were 16, when something very awful kind of happened. And her father hates it. Everybody kind of shuns him because him and his dad didn't go to church. His dad was a drunk, so he's, used to being looked down upon. She's used to being sheltered but having a very traumatizing childhood, as her father, would hit her with the cane to beat the evil out and keep her in line. But still very sheltered. That proves through the book as like things are coming out about the people of town that she never knew about, because they kind of, kept her in the dark about this. But maybe because it's urban and it's supposed to take place in a small Louisiana town. I know small southern towns. Sure, they're a little bit different everywhere, whatever. But it says there's just over 5,000 people, 5,000 Christian souls. And they make it out like in this small town that her fire and brimstone father is the only pastor in town. Ain't no way. I'm sorry, ain't no way there's only one church in that town. Moving on from that, though, it takes place in the past and the present. But the flashbacks of the past chapters you get are not in order. They go to random points in her past as she's thinking about it. And it's all from this very cringy person's point of view. Everything's from her point of view. And I'm like, oh my God. I pretty much finished it just to see if it could get any cringier. And I hated the ending so much. The best part of cringe, though, is when she told her friend that I know your secret. Don't worry. It's okay to tell me. I already know. And he's like, oh, thank goodness, and everything. And he thinks she really does. But no, she's just so dissociated and clinging to the Twilight books that she found, and it's kind of how reading saved her as a child, that she tells him he's a vampire. It's okay. She knows. So we're still finishing Oathbringer, which will mean using another scroll, whose name I have forgotten at the moment, to be able to finish it outside of the month and still count it. And that's what we'll do. And we will talk about it in the October wrap-up that hopefully I will remember to talk about it. And of course there will be the review up in like a week or so, because I am very close to finishing it now at this point. But I do have one book mail to open for you, so I'm going to do that before I forget. With exceptional timing, whenever I went to go find the box cutter to open this, the camera turned off from overheating. Apparently I talked too long. Hopefully it'll edit down as I read things, saw things, and I don't have to include all of it. This is the September Fairy Loot Power Struggles. Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. It's bubbled. Ooh, and the gemstone in this one, instead of being orange like the original, I'm talking and I know it's muting me, is this red color. Oh my gosh, I love it. If suffering made us stronger, then I would be stronger than all of them. I could read. Ooh, okay. And I'm not going to talk about this book much. You can just go check out the review I did on it. And this is the reversible dust jacket, which is their own design of the sisters there. And our naked one. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I enjoyed this book so much. I like the world that she's creating in it. And now I really want to read her other series, The Drowning Empire. Hopefully I'm holding these up good. You can just like freeze on the author letter if you want. And the map. I'm so glad to have this. Does the Fairy Loot have anything at the end though? Anything extra? Maybe? Yes? No? Bonus chapter? No. Rats. No. Ink smell. Now, where this is gonna fit on the shelf though, I don't know. September was a mixed bag reading month. I finished Red Rising with Morningstar, and that was amazing. Reading Oathbringer was going great. I just didn't finish it in time. And our others, Lucy Undying wasn't bad, but we're not gonna talk about the other ones. I hope that your September went much better than mine, and that you finished all your classes if you were participating in the Orilium Readathon or any of the other ones that I know were going on at this period in time. I hope you enjoyed this video. You'll come back for more. Like, check that one out, that review. And subscribe so I can see you in the next one. Hopefully you're finding something awesome to read today